Hello, you fabulous interior design professional. Welcome to Business of Design. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Kimberley Seldon, and I have a confession to make. Oh, yes, I do. I don't think I'm that creative. That probably sounds really strange coming from someone who's an interior designer. And you already know I wasn't wired for business. So if I'm not creative and I'm not really wired for business, how the heck did I find myself in this career? And the answer is I have no idea. I have no idea why I transitioned from a career as a television producer into interior design, but I'm really glad I did. And when I say I'm not that creative, what do I mean by that? I mean that I'm really, really confident and good at space planning and drafting and making the cerebral choices that are required to do good work. By that, I mean, I can look at the architecture of the home and I can understand what types of design elements will contribute to that architecture and not take away from it. I understand how contrast impacts a space. I understand how to create rhythm in a space. But it's all somewhat academic. Where I can fall short sometimes is in the creative side. I can chicken out when it comes time to choose an amazing wallpaper, or I can go with a safe color when a pop of bright, bold color would be so much more interesting. And this past month, I happened to be in Atlanta, Georgia for this case conference with this wonderful group of mostly women, a couple of guys. And the very first person I met, well, it was the second person I met, but was Kelly Collier-Clark. And I noticed her immediately because she was wearing a bright yellow dress. And I thought, wow, I had a bright yellow dress when I was a freshman in high school. And I remember it because I wore it to Easter Sunday at my boyfriend Frank Grana's house. And I felt so good in that bright yellow dress. And I have never once put on, I don't think, anything yellow since then. And it reminded me of how safe I can play it in life and in decorating. And so it's great to have Kelly Collier-Clark on the show. She is the CEO and principal of House of Clark Interiors. She's a boutique design firm based in Bluebell, Pennsylvania. And I mean, even where she's from is colorful. That's amazing. She says she specializes in designing functional luxury spaces for residential and commercial interiors. And Kelly's work, of course, has been featured in a number of design publications and a book that was released in 2023. She's an NYDC design ambassador, brand ambassador, design and lifestyle influencer blogger, and she's also a licensed realtor. I wanted to talk to Kelly about how to be a little bit more bold. What kind of spaces can I push myself in? And I have over the years pushed myself sometimes, and I've been so happy with the results. But my default position is to kind of play it neutral and play it safe. And so on every project, I have to push myself a little and say to myself, what in this space is going to make the client say, wow, this is thrilling to me. I love how I feel when I see this thing. It's not always a wallpaper. It's not always a paint color. It might be a carpet. It might be a painting. Weirdly, I'm great at artwork. I'm very comfortable choosing creative, bold artwork and choosing paintings for clients. But I have to watch that default wiring I have that makes me pull back and play small and play it safe. So I've got a great conversation with Kelly today. You can find Kelly on Instagram at Kelly Collier-Clark or on her website, House of Clark Interiors. All of this information is in the show notes. We're so glad you're here. Quick announcements from Cheryl, and you get to meet Kelly too.
Thanks, Kimberly. Well, I actually just want to focus on membership today. We've talked about October, High Point Market, Business of Design is turning 20, and we would love for you to join us, but you don't have to wait until then to become part of Business of Design. We would love for you to become a member. If you're already a member, thank you. And we just want to make sure that you are taking advantage of everything that's included with that. It is one thing to learn and take the videos and understand all of the systems that are available to you through membership. It is a whole other ballgame to actually implement those systems, and that's where support comes in. Join us for our monthly BOD live meetings. Reach out to your fellow members in the Facebook community. We are here to support you and help you implement the systems that you are learning. Those are two different things. Learning the systems and implementing them, two different things. Also, running your business and running your projects are two separate learning streams that we have. We talk a lot about Business of Design's 15-step project management strategy. That is how to run your projects from start to finish. We have 6 other programs dedicated to running your business. You can make very quick, very impactful changes to your business from day one, whether that's how you log your hours, how you invoice and collect billable hours from clients, whether you are changing your pricing model because there's only so many design hours in a day to be charging for your design fees. You need a multi-revenue stream that's going to allow you to be profitable. Our programs on how to run your business are changes that you can make relatively quickly on existing projects, on every new project that comes in. And if you are already a member, make sure that you are taking advantage of that support that comes along with it, because if you are not implementing what you are learning, you are not going to see the drastic changes that so many other members have experienced. And again, Business of Design is turning 20. We've been online since just after 2010. So we have been reaching interior designers around the world. These systems work everywhere. We've got members around the world, which is amazing, implementing and using these systems to run successful businesses. And we would love for that to be your story as well. So check it out. Click on membership in the main menu. And of course, reach out to me at any time, Cheryl at businessofdesign.com. I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much.
Well, I'm very excited to talk to Kelly this morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to talk to you also, Kimberly.
We shared an Uber when I was just recently in Atlanta, and we actually got lost together in an Uber, and then we found our way together in an Uber.
Yes, that's our story.
That's our story. That's a story for a lot of us in business too.
Mhm.
Like, right? We take one path and we hit a dead end, and we turn around and we find another path and a door opens. So I think that's a fitting metaphor.
Yes, agreed.
I wanted to talk to you this morning about one of your superpowers. I know you have more than one superpower, but one of your superpowers seems to be just a tremendous amount of bravery and courage when it comes to decorating, particularly those transition spaces that we sometimes forget about. And this struck me because sometimes I can play it too safe. And
Okay.
I find myself getting stuck in a rut. And I know I'm not special. I'm not unique. There must be somebody else who does that too. So I'm just really excited to talk to someone who feels like super creative and energized. And any tips you have for us on that would be awesome.
So I think the first thing that comes to mind for me with an entryway, for example, is it's the segue into your home, right? So that's the space where you get to make the first impression on your guests. It's also, more importantly, the first place that you see when you come home every day. So I think that that space should not be ignored, whether it's a beautiful mirror on the wall with a table or just some nice wall art that you love, plants. Those are the things that I feel like make us feel good, especially plants. I actually have 2 in my foyer now.
You do. You do.
Mhm.
It's so funny. When I was in interior design school, this is going back to like 1991. They said, if you
Mhm.
don't know what to do in a corner, you put a plant there. So, and then that became like ridiculous, stupid advice. And I kind of went the opposite way where I almost never use
Mhm.
plants. But in fact, they're so beautiful, and the right touch could
Yeah,
make a huge difference in someone's home, especially if somebody's like reacts to those.
yeah, I agree. And for some people who don't, a lot of people these days, I'm running into some who don't like authentic plants, but some of the faux plants look really nice. You can't even tell the difference sometimes.
I don't love fake plants because I feel like they need to be dusted and like,
Yeah.
that's like one of my pet peeves that they're just all ugh, gross and dusty. But then I get beautiful plants and I kill them. So I don't know what's better. Um, it's funny you say like people kind of ignore the entranceway or the foyer or the foyer, depending on where you live. But
Mhm.
sometimes we ignore it by playing too safe. Like, right? Everything is
Mhm.
beige. It's the
Yeah.
same console table that all your friends have. It's a mirror from Pottery Barn.
Yeah.
Yawn, yawn, yawn. How
Yeah.
big can you go when you're thinking of decorating that entrance space? Like, can you do a wild wallpaper? What are your limitations? Hey designers, just popping in to remind you of the wonders of Daniel House Club. DHC simplifies your design business, offering everything you need in one place. No more wasting time managing orders. They've got that covered, so you can concentrate on creating beautiful spaces. Plus, they offer some of the best trade pricing on top brands like Four Hands, Curry & Co., and Hudson Valley Lighting, with flat rate shipping. To join, visit danielhouse.club and use the promo code BOD2024, all caps, for 50% off your first year of their Pro Plus membership. And for you longtime members of DHC, they want to reward you for your loyalty. Use the code HighPoint2024 at checkout to receive 10% off the value of your next order. DHC is also super excited to celebrate BOD's 20th anniversary with us this fall at High Point Market. They will be sponsoring our seminar series on Saturday, October 26th, in partnership with some of their top vendor showrooms, including Four Hands, where mimosas will be on tap. Join Daniel House Club now and experience how easy managing your design business can be.
I think it depends. It depends on if there's something else right off your entryway. Like, for example, I had a client who we did wallpaper in her powder room, so that was the wow factor. So we did not do that in her entryway. However, we had a beautiful Oriental style rug, a runner, that was the statement. So we went with that being the statement versus what was on the walls. The light fixture, although it was a flush mount, we made sure it was gold, kind of like a sunburst situation. But
Nice.
so I think like metal tone accents can also give you that wow factor, no matter what color the walls are.
Something should be exciting in the room, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a
Yeah.
pattern, but
Right.
something. I always do that when I'm working with my team. They'll come to me and they'll say, "What about this for the design?" And I'll say, "What in this space has made
Mhm.
you go, wow?" And they're like,
Mhm.
"Well, I'm like, okay, then go back. Bring me wow. I want,
Yeah.
because you said it, like, right, when you turn the key or you put in your key code or whatever and enter your
Mhm.
condo, your apartment, your home, you want to
Mhm.
have a feeling that like, I'm here. I made it.
Yeah.
I'm in my
Yeah.
happy place.
Yes.
So
Yep.
are some of those decisions driven by the clients then? I'm assuming that that's true. Like, so you have a client who says, I hate pattern, I hate color, I only
Mhm.
want everything to be gray. Like, what do you do with those clients?
Yeah. Well, as you know, that's our whole goal in life, to make our clients happy, right? And so at the end of the day, I try to challenge my clients sometimes to think outside of the box and trust me. So I want to respect what they want, but I also want to just show them something a little bit different. So sometimes they can't necessarily see it on the mood board, but I'll tell them, I promise if you don't love it, we can just take it down. Right.
Yeah,
So because sometimes they can't see it until they see it.
yeah,
So that's really just the solution to trying to bring clients that wow factor who love the gray and clean lines. I
yeah.
like clean lines as well, but I also like pops of wow. In every space, I think you should have some kind of wow factor, and you need a star in the room. So, yeah.
I get that from you though. Like you guys, if you're looking on YouTube, you can see Kelly's wearing a beautiful dress with pattern. And I first noticed you at the hotel in Atlanta. You're wearing a beautiful dress. And I immediately thought, oh gosh, I'm like, my outfit is so boring compared to your
It was
outfit.
not. Thank
Well, I
you.
had a colorful top on, but my
You
pants were
did.
black, right? Yeah. So, I do think sometimes that people feel like there's just people who love pattern more than solids and people who love solids more than patterns,
Mhm,
and you still
mhm.
kind of try to push them to try something different from time to time.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm preaching to myself when I say that because my style is very black and white, generally speaking. So I challenge myself for two things. One, to wear more dresses because I think they're easier than trying to figure out tops and bottoms. And then two, and they're more girly, but two, for the pattern purpose because I do love that pop. And I'll probably never find it in my blouses or top. So it's the dresses for me that I'll live that dream out a couple times a week.
I find that as I've gotten older, it's easier for me to challenge clients. It's easier for me
Mhm.
to say, and in fact, I just did this with a client who presented a wallpaper. She thought it was too much. These are her words. It's too much. I'm like, it's not too much. It's not too much at all. It's going to be a scene stealer. When people walk in, they're going to go, I love your wallpaper. I said, don't you want that reaction, And
Mhm.
she finally said, okay, fine, I'm gonna try it. But if I hate it, I said, if I hate it, if you hate it, we'll take it down.
Mhm.
It's just wallpaper. Don't worry about it if you hate it, but you're gonna love
Mhm.
it. It hasn't gone up yet. I'll keep you posted. But I found when I was younger, I was more afraid to kind of push a little. And I wish I could have channeled that courage a little bit earlier. I don't know if you have any advice for women who are just maybe starting out, new in business. How do you push for the thing is going to make the space look great?
So I think the first couple of years in running the design business and trying to challenge clients was a little bit harder, mainly because I still was trying to hone my own confidence in myself as a designer. And I think for someone starting out, or if you're just younger and a little bit more timid, you have to just remember that your confidence is why they chose you to be your designer and run with it. Because to be honest, they call us in because they can't do it and they can't imagine all the things that they want, but they saw your Instagram page, they saw your website. So I would just say my best advice would be to believe in yourself and just dig for that confidence.
And practice, right? Like you can get
Yep.
better at that. And you can
You
see
can.
like, oh, I actually talked her into it. She's going to do it.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
then the thought that immediately follows is, what if it looks terrible? What if I made a mistake? What if I chose the wrong thing? Like I'm constantly having to talk myself off the ledge, but I have the good sense to keep
Mhm.
my mouth shut around the clients. Oh my gosh, this is such a hard business. So not just the entranceway, but in particular, you mentioned powder rooms. Like, what is it
Mhm.
about powder rooms that allow you to be more fearless, do you think, when you're decorating?
Uh, Powder rooms have become my niche, to be honest. And I
Mm.
think because they get ignored so much that it's a little bit easier to talk a client into or convince a client that let's be wild in this room or let's live out all your design dreams in this little space because it's small. So we need impact. And I think it's all about the words that you use because when clients hear words like impact, like wow factor, like everybody's going to love it, that's immediately what we think, and every time you walk in this powder room, let's say if you work from home and you're using this particular powder room all day long, every time you walk in, you want to smile,
Yeah.
right? Every time you look in the mirror, you want to take a selfie. If it's selfie worthy, then I know I did my job.
Yeah. Well, I was just talking to somebody that a hotel that opened up kind of near where the Schitt's Creek Hotel is. And they took
Okay.
an old like motel and they painted everything peach. And they were interviewing the owners of the motel. And I think there's a Netflix show about this motel now. And they just said every corner of this motel is Instagrammable. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of clients relate to that nowadays. It's you want this to be
Mhm.
Instagrammable or forgettable. What are we going for here, right? And
Yeah.
particularly in a powder room, I think those are really transition spaces. You don't stay very long. You don't have
Right.
much time to make an impression. So it needs to happen pretty quickly. And I
Mm.
find pattern and color are really kind of a shortcut to that, right?
Yep, I agree, 100%.
Where I'd be a little bit maybe more reluctant to do that in a living room that you might spend hours in.
Right.
Um, Although I'm even getting more brave in that capacity. You know, when I first was going to design school in the 90s, a lot of, one of the big kind of, was it a trend or was it just how it was? We did a lot of pattern on pattern on pattern. And then,
Mhm,
in the early aughts and stuff, we got away from that. We got a little bit, contemporary and serious and like, oh,
mhm,
Eames chair, which is all great. But I'm finding now kind of the urge to do a little bit more pattern on pattern on pattern. And maybe everything isn't so matchy matchy. There's a little bit more tension.
mhm.
Am I
Yeah,
losing my mind? Should I pull back?
no, no, I agree. I think it's some people look at it as a trend, but I think it's timeless when you see burlwood in two different colors in the same room. When you see texture, I think texture is the biggest way to add interest besides pattern. But for patterns, I love pattern play. So I'm definitely not afraid of it, even if it's three different neutral colors. And for those who want to play it safe and so many words. But I definitely think you should do it. I think it definitely is catchy these days.
I can't think of the last time we put wallpaper on a ceiling, but I used to do that all the time. I'm like, did I get
Oh.
lazy? Did I forget? What, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, I have to push myself to be creative, which is funny because a lot of us, I meet a lot of designers who are a lot more creative than me. They have to hold themselves back. I have to push
Mhm.
myself. Which way are you?
I have to hold myself back. And I say that because I just moved to my current home last year and I've already wallpapered the ceiling in the mudroom. The walls are painted, but the last house I had, the powder room was wall to wall and ceiling wallpaper. So I'm all about the fifth wall. And I think we can't forget it because even if it's not wallpaper, paint it. Like
Yeah.
I promise when you look up, you're going to be like, wow.
Right? It doesn't have to be white. It's so
Right.
funny. We have clients who had their own painter, and that happens sometimes.
Mhm.
Like we want to use our painter. We've had him forever. We love him. We love him. So we did it the paint schedule and picked all the colors, and then we're getting these notes from the client. Oh, Dominic says that if you don't paint the ceiling white, the room is going to feel too small. And I'm all like, you tell Dominic to like. I have
Biggest
to be
deal.
nice about it, but it's like, come on,
Right.
no. But, when I was younger, I might have said, well, okay, do
Mhm.
what he thinks. But now I'm like, no, you should do exactly what I said.
Mhm.
He's not right about this. And I think so far they've done what I want them to do, but I'll know tomorrow. I'm going to do a site check and see how Dominic is doing. But he's like, he wanted to paint the island, which is walnut. I'm like, are you crazy? This island probably cost $45,000 on its own. Like, why would
Right.
you paint it? Like, don't do it. The whole kitchen is built around this walnut island. So anyway, we'll see what Dominic has done. I'll probably get over there and the island's painted.
I hope not.
I
It
hope
better.
not too.
I hope not, but that's one of the biggest myths. That if you paint a room, I don't know, black, it's going to look smaller. And the truth is, if it's small, it's small.
That's
But
right.
paint is not going to make it look smaller.
No, what's bigger than an infinite sky at night? It's black and it goes forever.
Right.
I've learned that it's actually contrast that makes things feel
Hmm.
small. So if the walls are black and the ceiling's white, yeah, it's going to be smaller. But if it's
Hmm.
all black,
Hmm.
you can't look around here. My entire condominium is black, and it was a backlash to there was a movie with Diane Keaton, Jack
Hmm.
Nicholson, As Good as It Gets, I think, or It's Complicated. It's one of the, I don't know. It was a beach movie. She had a house in the Hamptons, and she had this beautiful kitchen with white Carrara marble and white cabinets. After that movie came out, we did like 35 white kitchens with white Carrara marble. And I said, I can't take it. So we had just moved from our house. We bought this
Mhm.
condo. I said to my husband, it's going to be black. The whole condo is going to be black. And I don't know what he pictured, but when he came home at one point and said, oh
Mhm.
my God, every wall is black. I'm like, I told you
You
it's
thought
going to be
you weren't.
black. And I love it. It's hard to photograph well, but we're here mostly at night. And at nighttime, it's
Mhm.
just sparkly and sexy, and it feels huge to me. It doesn't feel
I'm
small
sure.
because it's black.
No, I'm sure it's beautiful. And I don't know. The one thing about color I notice is that the finish is what matters most, right? Because you got to worry about the TV or the lights gleaming off a wall that's satin versus matted. So, but either way, I'm a fan, and I love tricorn black is actually one of my favorite colors.
Oh, I love it. I like brown. Oh, actually, you can see a little. You cannot lie. That's black. That's a black wall. That's a black
I love.
media cabinet. And I have some drapes with a bit of pattern here, but the rest of the
Mhm,
house, I mean, it's black.
mhm.
I
It's beautiful.
find it's if I double down on my selections for clients, if I seem confident, I
Hmm.
can convince them to do what I want them to do. But if I waffle and say, well, we could do that. And I actually think that's a great disservice to the clients because then they start wondering if we know what does she know what she's talking about? I hired her to be an expert and now she's
Yeah.
waffling.
I agree. I think one of the cues I take before I even catch myself doing that, because I think we all do that at one point in time, but when a client says, whatever you think, that tells me right then and there, shut up, like stop talking, because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, they already told me they trust me.
Yeah.
So here I am saying, well, we could do this or that. And they're telling me again, whatever I think. So that's my cue that I'm starting to remember to pick up on.
That's a really good cue. And I will say now sometimes if it were my house, this is what I would do. And people love that. They go, "Oh, okay, if you
Mhm.
feel that strongly about it." It's kind of like if I go to the doctor and that they say you should, I'll say, "If this was your daughter, would you tell her to do this or this?" Well, if it was
Mhm.
my daughter, I'd tell her to do this. Okay, I'll do that.
Right.
Because I know you care about your daughter, right?
Yes. Yep. That's really true. That's an interesting point you made because I sometimes would think if I talk about what I did at my house or what I would do at my house, I used to think clients didn't really want to hear that.
Mm.
But I learned that they do so much to the point that if I share the color I used on my walls, they want their walls that color.
Yeah. Well,
So,
they're hiring you because they
mhm,
don't know what to do, and they're saying,
mhm,
please be the expert. I want you to take the lead on the project. I want you to be the expert." And we just out of, I don't know, playing small or trying to be humble,
mhm.
we don't want to act like we know everything. But gosh, they're just desperate for us to tell them what to do.
Yeah. And I think speaking of like when you're young or newer, calling yourself the expert is something that we don't do in the beginning. But I think over time, you have to just own it because you are to that person, right? We sometimes get caught up in comparing ourselves to other designers or the designers we look up to, and we feel like we can't call ourselves expert compared to them. But I think when you just have that, those blinders that horses have on when they win the races, when you keep those on, you're the expert when you show up
Yeah.
at people's homes. So
And it
yeah.
helps, right, to get together with the tribe and talk about
Hmm.
like the challenges and get
Hmm.
your that was one of the things I took away from the case conference. I wish I had been able to spend more time with everybody. Jamila did such a beautiful job at the conference. I just love that feeling afterwards of like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. This is a hard job. And
Yeah.
now I have all these people around me that I can go to for support and help and
Mhm.
comfort and strength and motivation, right?
Yeah. It was really good on the breaks because that's when people would talk about whatever presentation they just saw. And I must say, yours was amazing. And all the way home on the plane, all I was thinking about was how I'm not doing discovery calls anymore. And I can't wait to take it off my website because I'm one of those people that you don't have to really convince. And if it sounds good to my ears and I believe in what it is, I don't have to think about it too long. If it
Right.
makes, because I am an analytical person, but if it makes sense, then I'm like, oh, that's genius. And it could be the smallest thing.
Yeah. I'm somebody who, okay, I'll try it. I'll just try it. What do I have to
Mhm.
lose? I'll try it a
Mhm.
couple times. If I don't like it, I can go back to the way I was doing it. I had a business coach who used to say, I'll gladly refund your misery. Keep doing it. Try it my way. And if it doesn't work, I will gladly refund your misery. I'm like, okay, got it. I'm going to try it. And I think you just touched on at the end of every episode, we ask people to give us one last final bit of advice, some design intervention. And I think you sort of, your divine design intervention came from the case conference.
Most recently, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most recently, yes. I think what my takeaway intervention for me was, and if I can share with whoever needs it, was really you don't have anything to lose by changing your processes and seeing if it works, right? And especially if your phone's not ringing off the hook, there could be a reason for that. And so those are the things that I try to pay attention to. Also, the whole thing that we don't really like to talk about, the cost. What are you charging? I loved having those, just hearing those conversations and hearing it spoke about in a presentation was inspiring. So I think
Yeah.
people should be more transparent. Yeah.
Every time we talk about something like that, when we do a live event, we say, share your design fees. Inevitably, half the audience says, oh my gosh, I'm not charging enough.
Yeah.
And that is, I heard that over and over again when we were in Atlanta. Wow, I'm not charging enough. And then it's interesting. I wish I would know how many people are going to charge more, because some of those people, a lot of those people who said, I'm not charging enough, will continue to not charge enough. And then there'll
Yeah.
be a few brave souls who decide to take it up a notch.
Yeah. The majority of people that I spoke to said they are going to charge more. So I think
Huh?
it will be interesting to check in with each other and hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
Um, to say, hey, did you go up or are you afraid to put it on your website? I can't recall what the consensus was about if it's on websites or not. Um, but I think that's the biggest step. If you do that, then you can't take it down. You can't take it back.
Right. Well, you can take it down. You can take it down after a
Well,
month.
yeah.
You can see what happens. But I just find that's a really good pre-qualifying tool. Like I just,
Mhm.
can't have somebody phoning who thinks it's $100 to do a consultation. And my high-end clients will think that I'm not good enough if it's $100. Like if it doesn't hurt a little, it's not in the
Yeah.
ballpark, right? It has to hurt a little. So it's worth exploring that and inching that up. Kelly, it was so great to meet you. I hope it'll just be the first of many times we get to hang out together. And hopefully Jamila will continue to do conferences. And I had a wonderful time in Atlanta. And thanks for sharing an Uber with me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for sharing your Uber with me. And it was great meeting you at the conference as well. And thanks for having me on your show.
Anytime.